Liam Evans had lived a life that could never be described as easy. From a very young age, he had to endure unspoken pain and losses that no child could ever understand. Born into a family where love was never complete, Liam knew that he had no right to demand love from anyone, only the ability to overcome everything on his own. Maria Evans, Liam's mother, was a strong and resilient black woman who gave birth to him under heartbreaking circumstances. When she was young, Maria fell in love with a man named Michael Hawthorne, a man from the upper class with a wealthy and powerful family. Their relationship was harshly opposed by Michael's family due to racial differences, and despite the genuine love between them, it was not strong enough to withstand the societal pressures. For a long time, Michael and Maria faced many difficulties, but they loved each other with everything they had. However, when Maria discovered she was pregnant, Michael's family could not accept it. They demanded that he sever ties with Maria and force her to leave. Cornered, Michael eventually followed their demands and heartbreakingly left Maria. Although Maria could not deny her love for him, she decided to raise Liam alone. She never told Michael about the pregnancy, understanding that even if he knew, he couldn't do anything to change the situation. The following years were tough for Maria as she raised Liam with boundless love, but their lives were never easy. Maria worked all kinds of jobs, from cleaning for wealthy families to selling goods in markets, but the worry about their future always haunted her. Despite everything, she always held on to the belief that things would get better, that Liam would have a life better than hers, a life she never had. Liam grew up in poverty, loneliness, and deprivation. His mother, with her open heart, always taught him that no matter how difficult life became, he should remain kind and never lose hope. But sometimes his mother's words couldn't mask the hunger, cold, and scarcity Liam endured each day. He learned to survive on the streets, in dark alleys where children like him were abandoned and forgotten. Once a shy child, Liam gradually became stronger, not because he wanted to, but because he had to in order to survive. For him, each day was a fight for survival. He didn't know joy or safety, only the need to find food, avoid strangers, and always be alert to everything around him. However, Liam was not a child who could easily be defeated. He learned to seek life from the simplest things, the leftovers in trash bins, the bits of bread people discarded, the old items he could repair and use. He had become accustomed to living in deprivation, but his perseverance and cleverness helped him get by. Maria had always been the biggest source of encouragement in his life. No matter how difficult things got, she always reminded him that no matter how tough life was, patience and love would help him overcome everything. The stories his mother told him, the lessons she taught, became the guiding light in Liam's dark life. Then, one day, when Liam was still very young, he lost his mother. Maria's death was an irreplaceable shock in his life. Liam was only 8 years old when his mother passed away from a disease she had been battling for many years. She never told him about the pain she endured when carrying him alone, but he knew she had sacrificed so much for him. Since his mother's death, Liam became an orphan, with no one to care for or watch over him. He was placed into the foster care system, where orphans like him were rotated between different foster families, each with a different environment, each person treating him in their own way. He endured years of suffering in families that didn't love him, sometimes facing indifference, sometimes even hostility from those he called family. These years molded Liam into a strong person, but one full of loneliness. He no longer believed in love or the promises of others. He learned to protect himself, building a tough shell that no one could penetrate. And Liam's life went on like this, without purpose or hope. He simply lived to survive. But this life could change at any time, and there were things ahead that he could never have imagined. Liam never expected that a random encounter would be the turning point in his life. He lived each day with one goal: to find enough food to survive and avoid drawing attention from strangers who could make his life even harder. Living in a city that never sleeps, among the bustling crowds and noise, Liam became a ghost, an invisible person among others. The narrow alleys and hidden corners of the city were where he searched for leftover food to sustain himself. That day, he wandered along a familiar street, one filled with secondhand stores and cafes that were always open but never welcomed him. Liam paid no attention to the people around him. He was only focused on finding scraps of bread or cans of food others had discarded, things that others threw away but were treasures to him. As he passed by a small cafe, he couldn't help but notice the smell of freshly brewed coffee wafting out. It was a scent so enticing, yet he had never dared to step inside to enjoy it. The people inside seemed happy, sipping hot coffee in the warm atmosphere of the winter morning. But Liam knew that place wasn't for him. He just stood there, pausing for a moment, looking inside with a sad expression. Then, something made him turn back. A shiny black car was parked right in front of the cafe. It was a luxury car, unlike anything Liam had ever seen, completely different from the old, dilapidated cars he saw every day. The man who stepped out of the car looked completely different from anyone Liam usually encountered. Tall, with silver hair and a sleek black suit, he seemed like a ghost in a world of luxury that Liam could never enter. But something about this man kept Liam's gaze fixed on him. His sharp eyes seemed like they could see right through Liam, noticing everything the boy tried to hide. Liam didn't dare to look directly at him, standing still, but the man's gaze never left him. It felt like a mysterious attention, one that Liam couldn't escape from. Then the unexpected happened. The man stepped out of the car confidently, but when he opened the door, something from his pocket suddenly fell. Liam saw the shiny black wallet roll out of his pocket and fall to the ground, spinning in front of him. No one noticed, and the man didn't realize he had dropped it. Liam silently bent down to pick it up. Although it seemed like a normal action, it had a strange pull to it. He didn't know why he did it, but something urged him to return it. When Liam held up the wallet, the man looked up, his eyes filled with surprise and doubt. Liam didn't say anything, just held the wallet out. "You dropped this," he said, his voice soft but certain. Michael stared at Liam for a long time, as if trying to figure out whether the boy was a scammer. But after a few seconds, he slowly approached, took the wallet without saying anything. His eyes were still fixed on Liam, as if assessing him, testing the truth in his eyes. "You're not taking the wallet? Just returning it?" Michael asked, his voice deep, tinged with suspicion. Liam just shook his head, maintaining his cold demeanor. He was too familiar with people's doubt. He didn't want anything from this man. He just wanted to finish the encounter and leave. "No, I'm not taking it. Just returning it to you," Liam replied simply and straightforwardly. Michael observed him for a long moment, seemingly still trying to gauge Liam's motives. His eyes never left him, as if looking for something from Liam's emotionless expression. After a while, Michael lifted his eyes and gave a slight smile, though it wasn't very friendly. "My name is Michael Hawthorne," he said, his tone soft but serious. "Thank you for returning the wallet." Liam didn't reply, just stood there in silence, but inside he felt confused. He turned to leave, thinking this encounter would end like all the others, with nothing special. But just as he turned away, something strange fell out of the wallet that Michael was holding. A photo, old and faded with time, but Liam immediately recognized it. It was a picture of his mother, Maria. He stopped instantly, a strange feeling rising in his chest. The photo, which he had seen in blurry memories, was now in front of him, but not in his mother's hands. It was in the hands of a stranger. Liam bent down to pick up the photo, his hands trembling as he looked at the familiar faces. Maria, his mother, her smile, her eyes, unmistakable. Liam couldn't understand. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. This photo was in the wallet of this man, but why? Liam looked at Michael, his eyes filled with confusion and panic. He knew for sure that this was no coincidence. The question immediately sprang to his lips. The woman in the photo. Who is she? Liam's voice trembled, unable to keep his composure. Michael didn't respond immediately. He looked at the photo for a long time, as if searching for an explanation for himself. After a moment of silence, he spoke, his voice lowered. "That's Maria. Maria Evans," he said. Liam was speechless. He stared at Michael, his eyes filled with doubt. Why did this man have a photo of his mother? The question made everything inside him feel chaotic. Why did he know her? Why did his mother leave a picture for this man? In response to Liam's questioning gaze, Michael only silently nodded, as if preparing to reveal a truth that Liam wasn't ready to hear. Liam stood there, holding the photo, his heart full of confusion. He didn't know what to do, didn't know if he could trust what this man was about to say. But there was one undeniable truth. The name Maria Evans in his head, the image of the woman in the photo, all seemed to open a door that he had never expected. After the unexpected encounter between Liam and Michael, everything began to feel vague and confusing. Although Liam was puzzled and full of doubts, he couldn't shake the strange feeling that this man brought with him. The name Maria Evans echoed in his mind, tied to blurry memories of his mother. But the picture in Michael's wallet, with his mother in it, only added to his confusion. Why did this man have a photo of his mother? Could he really be the man his mother had loved? Could he be the father Liam never knew? From Michael's side, there was no intention to let this event go unnoticed. Though he wanted to approach Liam directly and ask about the relationship between him and Liam's mother, he knew he couldn't rush things. The truth about his relationship with Maria had been hidden for too long, and now everything was a secret yet to be revealed. Michael had once thought that his love for Maria was long over, that those days were a past that could never return. But when he looked into Liam's eyes, he couldn't help but think that the boy could be his son, the child he never knew, the child he had missed out on all these years. Michael decided to proceed carefully. He couldn't rush anything, especially when everything was still unclear. He didn't want Liam to feel pressured, didn't want him to think that he was looking for something from him. So he began a very different strategy, silent, discreet, but full of patience. In the following days, Michael started to observe Liam from a distance. He didn't approach him directly or try to get too close. Instead, he quietly watched from afar. On mornings when Liam passed familiar streets, Michael would appear from a distance, always keeping a safe distance. It wasn't because he feared being discovered, but because he understood that his approach needed to feel natural, not forced. He wanted Liam to feel his presence on his own, not in a sudden encounter. He didn't want to intrude upon him. One day, as Liam passed through a familiar neighborhood, he saw the black car parked by the side of the road, the same luxury car he had seen the other day. Michael, from behind the window, was still observing him, but this time, it wasn't anything unusual. It was just a casual appearance. Michael didn't approach him, just stood there like a shadow, watching from afar. However, Liam could feel the presence. He didn't look back, but deep inside, he felt something was happening. Someone was watching him. Liam couldn't explain why, but a strange feeling started to take over him. He had never met this man except for the first encounter, but Michael's subsequent appearances made it impossible for Liam to ignore. Every time Liam got closer to the area where Michael frequently appeared, he always felt a presence watching him, as though Michael was not just a stranger, but some figure that had been in his life for a long time. That feeling couldn't be put into words, but it lingered silently but powerfully. Michael understood that in order to approach Liam effectively, he needed to create closeness, but not too forcefully. He started finding ways to help him naturally. On mornings when Liam stood at the street corner looking for leftover food from stores, Michael would silently send him a piece of fresh bread or a bottle of water. Liam wouldn't know where it came from, but these small gifts always appeared at the moments when he needed them most. Michael never let Liam see what he was doing, just quietly standing from a distance, making sure Liam would receive the small gift he had sent. Though these gifts weren't much, to Liam, they felt like rays of light in his dark life. He didn't understand why this man was doing this, but he couldn't deny the warmth those actions brought. The sense of safety and the gentle care from Michael gradually made him feel a connection, something he couldn't easily forget. Michael didn't just help with material things. He also paid attention to Liam's every move, noticing the changes in his behavior and psychology. Liam was a child who had endured many wounds and deprivation, so approaching him needed to be done with great care, step by step. Michael knew that if he wanted Liam to accept him as a father, he had to be patient. He couldn't rush anything. One afternoon, when Liam was sitting alone on the steps of an abandoned house, Michael appeared nearby. This time, he didn't hide. He took the initiative to approach him. Liam noticed him, but still didn't look directly at him. He tried to avoid Michael's gaze, but the man wouldn't let him go. Michael sat next to him, maintaining a reasonable distance. "Would you like me to help you?" Michael asked gently, without pressuring him. Liam looked up at him, his eyes filled with confusion, but also a bit of hope. "Help? Who are you to help me?" he asked, his voice full of doubt. But Michael only smiled, a gentle smile, full of patience. "I just want to help because I know your life hasn't been easy." The silence between them lasted a few seconds before Michael continued. "I know you've been through a lot, but I just want to know if you want someone to be there for you. Someone you can trust." Liam remained silent, not answering. He didn't know if he could truly trust him, but one thing he couldn't deny. Over the past few days, Michael's presence had made his life seem less lonely. With each passing day, Michael approached Liam just a little more, not rushing, but also not backing down. He knew that when the time came, Liam would open up on his own, would begin to understand who he was, and whether he could accept him or not. Michael's silent approach continued, no hurried words, but his patience seemed to be starting to have an effect. Liam hadn't realized yet, but some kind of connection had started to form. Liam began to notice Michael's presence in his life more and more. The small gifts, the unexpected appearances that went unnoticed. Everything seemed too sudden, too natural, yet impossible to ignore. He couldn't explain the strange feeling when seeing this man show up. Each time they were close, even if it was just a passing glance or a helpful gesture, it left a mark on his mind. Michael wasn't the only one helping Liam, but the way he did it made Liam feel a difference. It wasn't the money or material things he offered, but the sincere and patient care, something Liam had lacked for so many years. Liam had grown accustomed to living alone, needing no one, trusting no one. His life had been a survival battle, a battle he had to win each day just to stay alive. But Michael's actions, though small, made Liam think. It seemed as if he always knew what Liam needed, knowing when he was hungry, when he was tired, and when he needed someone to share with, even in silence. Perhaps it was just a coincidence, but Liam didn't think so. Everything seemed too subtle to be mere coincidence. One day, when Liam was sitting alone in the park near where Michael often appeared, he saw the man again. This time, it wasn't just a fleeting appearance. Michael walked toward him, his eyes locking with Liam's, an expression of determination on his face, no longer filled with the doubt or hesitation from before. Liam felt the difference in Michael's approach this time. There was no longer the silent avoidance. but a clear sense of initiative. It seemed the time had come for them to face each other. Liam felt something rise within him, but he didn't know how to handle it. "We need to talk," Michael said, his voice gentle but firm. Liam couldn't deny the feeling that something was wrong. He stood up, hiding the confusion in his eyes, and replied, trying to maintain composure. "Talk about what?" Michael looked at him, his sharp eyes seeming to carry a deeper message he wanted to convey. "About Maria. About—" Liam couldn't find the words. He wanted to walk away immediately, but he couldn't. Some force pulled him back, as if his heart couldn't stop wondering about the connection between Michael and his mother. "I don't understand," Liam replied, his voice hoarse with confusion. "Who do you say I am?" Michael stood there, silent for a moment, as if pondering something important. Then he spoke, each word slow and deliberate, as though he wanted to make sure Liam heard everyone. "I'm Michael Hawthorne, and I think I'm your father." Liam froze, his heart seemingly stopping. Those words hit him like a shock. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Michael, this man, was his father? But how could that be? He didn't know anything about him, had no memories of him. Maria, his mother, had always said that he had no father. She had lived alone, raising him without any help. Yet now, this man was saying he was his father? Liam couldn't comprehend it. A storm of questions flooded Liam's mind. Why had his mother hidden this from him? Why hadn't this man been there all those years he grew up without the protection of a father? Liam couldn't contain his emotions anymore. He stared at Michael, his voice hard with anger and doubt. "You say you're my father?" he asked, each word heavy. "Then why have I never heard of you? Why didn't my mother ever tell me about you? Why didn't you ever look for me?" Michael lowered his gaze, his expression becoming more tense. "I didn't know," he said, his voice dropping. "After I left Maria, I didn't know she was pregnant. My family forced me to leave her. After that, I couldn't find her, couldn't know about your existence. It wasn't until I heard the name Liam Evans today that I realized I might be your father." Liam couldn't believe the words. They weren't just filled with doubt, but also a sense of guilt that couldn't be erased. He couldn't understand why Michael had only appeared after his mother had passed away, after he had endured so much pain and deprivation. He couldn't forgive him, couldn't accept this truth immediately. The anger surged inside him. "So, what do you want?" Liam asked, his voice full of resentment. "What do you want to do now? What do you want from me?" Michael didn't answer immediately. He stood there, as if asking himself that very question. "I just want to be a part of your life," he said, his voice low but full of resolve. "I can't change the past, but if you want, I'll be here. To make up for what I've missed." Liam didn't know what to do. He couldn't accept that apology right away, but he also couldn't deny that deep down, he still wanted a family, a father. However, he couldn't let himself be deceived again. The doubt filled his mind, not allowing him to open up immediately. "You need time," Liam said, his voice cold. "I can't trust you right now." Michael looked at him, his gaze not full of anger, but patience and understanding. "I understand," he said softly. "I'll wait, and I won't leave you again." Those words were like a mark in Liam's mind, but he didn't know whether he could accept Michael as his father. One thing was certain. This meeting, this truth, would change his life forever. The story between Michael and Liam was never as simple as a casual encounter. Since Michael had declared that he might be Liam's father, the questions and doubts in Liam's mind had only grown stronger, like a fierce wave crashing against a solid rock. Liam couldn't easily accept this man as his father, especially when every memory of his mother, Maria, showed no sign that Michael had ever been part of her life, or his. Michael knew well that for Liam to trust him, he would need concrete proof, and a DNA test was the only way to confirm the biological relationship between him and Liam. But Michael was not in a hurry. He understood that the doubt in Liam's heart wasn't something that could be easily changed. So, he decided to carry out the test quietly, without informing Liam beforehand, so as not to add any more pressure on him. When Michael went to the DNA testing clinic, he felt an odd sense of anxiety, a feeling he had never experienced despite having lived a life filled with wealth and power. Throughout his life, he had faced many challenges, from business matters to complex relationships. But now, standing before the door of truth, Michael felt a fear he had never known before. He could not deny that this truth would change everything. If the test results confirmed he was Liam's father, would Liam accept him? Would Liam forgive him for abandoning him all those years ago? The day the test results arrived, Michael sat in his large room, his hand trembling as he held the envelope. His heart pounded, like a child about to receive results from an important exam. Opening the envelope, the bold letters and numbers on the paper confirmed only one thing. DNA test results confirmed the biological relationship, father-son. Michael couldn't contain his emotions. A wave of happiness and relief surged inside him. But at the same time, he also felt a deep sense of regret. His son Liam had grown up without his presence for so many years. The following day, Michael decided to meet Liam to share the results. He knew that even with the confirmation from the test, everything wouldn't be easy. Liam might not want to accept the truth, and he couldn't force him. Michael went to a place where Liam often passed by, a quiet neighborhood where he usually sat to rest. Michael parked his car on a street corner and slowly got out, his steps heavy, as if each step was filled with uncertainty. He had made his decision, and now he had to follow through. When Liam saw Michael from a distance, he felt a strange sensation rise within him. He had seen this man quietly observe him before, but this time, something felt different. Michael was no longer keeping his distance. He walked straight toward Liam, his eyes resolute but also filled with concern. "Liam," he began, his voice low and steady. "I have the test results." Liam looked up, meeting his gaze. Even though he didn't want to face the truth, a part of him felt that it was inevitable now. He stayed silent, waiting for Michael to continue. "The results confirm," Michael said, never looking away from Liam. "I am your father." Liam couldn't say anything immediately. He stared at the man in front of him, and a feeling surged within him as though something inside him had just shattered. This feeling was indescribable. He wanted to laugh, cry, shout, but all he could do was stand still, feeling each word from Michael echoing in his mind. "Why are you telling me now?" Liam asked, his voice trembling. "Why didn't you come find me sooner?" Michael took a deep breath. Then he spoke. "I was wrong. I left Maria, and I didn't know about your existence until I heard the name Liam Evans today. I didn't know how you were living, didn't know anything about you. But I can't keep hiding. I can't let you live without me by your side." Liam remained silent, but part of him wanted to believe what Michael was saying. His mother had always taught him that no matter how harsh life was, the truth would eventually come out. But this truth, the truth that this man was his father, was too much for him. He didn't know if he could accept it. He didn't know if he could forgive Michael for what he had done to his mother, for leaving her alone during all those difficult years. Michael looked into Liam's eyes, his gaze softening a little. "Liam, I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I hope you'll give me a chance. I won't go anywhere. I want to be a part of your life. I can't change the past, but I want to be here now for you." Liam stood there, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. He didn't know what to do, but he knew that this feeling couldn't be easily dismissed. Part of him wanted a family, wanted the father he had never known. But another part of him, the hardened and independent part, didn't want to be hurt again. He looked into Michael's eyes, seeing the sincerity in them, but he couldn't deny the fear in his heart. Michael waited, not pushing, just quietly observing Liam. Although the DNA test had confirmed their biological relationship, the wounds in Liam's heart were still raw. The truth about his father wasn't something he could accept immediately. Liam knew he needed time, and Michael understood that. Finally, Liam looked up, his eyes no longer filled with anger, but with exhaustion. I don't know, he said, his voice soft but full of pain. I need time. Michael nodded, saying nothing more. He knew that all he could do now was be patient. Only time could help Liam find the answers for himself. Liam could not deny that the days following his encounter with Michael had slowly but surely changed him. He still lived with his constant loneliness, but a part of him began to feel the warmth from the small gestures Michael made. The simple gifts this man gave him, though not extravagant, were like faint rays of light in Liam's dark life. Warm bread, bottles of clean water, even an old book, all carried a message that Liam could not ignore. Michael never forced him to accept the truth, never used sweet words or promises that others might use to comfort him. He simply remained there, quietly, patiently, as if waiting for Liam to recognize the sincerity in his actions. These acts were not meant to bribe Liam, but were just his way of showing unconditional care. Michael knew that Liam couldn't trust him immediately, but he wanted to show him that he would always be there, never abandoning him again. Then, one morning, when Liam received fresh bread from Michael, something in him suddenly changed. He sat down at a quiet street corner, looking at the bread in his hand, then gazing into the distance where the morning light began to shine on the roads. A strange feeling rose in his heart, as though something had gently sparked in him. Despite his cold attitude in the past days, these gifts had undeniably made him feel less alone, less skeptical about everything that had happened. After days of avoiding it, Liam decided to face Michael. He couldn't continue living in doubt, in the darkness of uncertainty. He needed an answer. He needed to understand more about what was going on, and perhaps this was his chance to start a new journey. A journey that he wasn't sure he could continue, but also couldn't turn back from. He wanted to find Michael in a quiet neighborhood where he often went, a place where he felt he could find peace. When Michael saw Liam, he wasn't surprised, just smiled gently as if he knew this moment had come. Liam stepped closer to him, and in that moment, the silence between them was not distance, but connection. A connection Liam himself wasn't sure if he could accept. Michael didn't speak immediately, but his eyes looked at Liam with sincerity, not rushing, not forcing, just a gaze full of patience. What do you want to ask? Michael spoke, his voice deep and calm, with no rush. Liam looked up, his eyes empty but filled with inner conflict. I want to understand, he said, his voice low. My mother loved you, and you left her. You abandoned her when I needed you most. Why are you here now? Michael didn't respond right away. He seemed to understand the pain that Liam was carrying in his heart. Liam, he began, his voice lowering as if trying to find the right words. I was wrong. I can't change the past, but I can change how I face the present. I left when I shouldn't have. I listened to my family and left Maria alone. I lost her, and now I can't lose you. Liam remained silent, but a part of him still held skepticism. You can't fix anything, he said, though his voice was softer now. My mother is dead. I've lived alone all these years. Do you know what I've had to endure? Michael didn't answer immediately. He just stood there, silent, his eyes looking down at the ground as if bearing all the suffering that Liam had gone through. I know, he whispered. I can't know everything, but I won't make you suffer anymore. I'm here if you need me. Liam felt the sincerity in Michael's words and also realized that he couldn't change the past, couldn't bring his mother back. But there was something Liam had never had, a person who cared about him, someone who wanted to make up for past mistakes. Liam felt a conflict within him, but also a strange sense of relief. He wasn't alone anymore. He didn't have to live in this pain by himself anymore. Finally, after a long silence, Liam looked up at Michael. "I don't know if I can forgive you," he said, but his eyes no longer held the anger they once did. "But I want to try. I want to know if we can start over." Michael said nothing, just looked at him, his eyes sparkling with happiness he had never felt before. "Thank you," he said softly, but Liam could hear the gratitude and regret in his voice. "I won't disappoint you again." That moment, the moment Liam finally decided to open his heart, was not just an act of forgiveness, but also a new beginning. A beginning without the shadow of the past, without the old wounds still lingering, but only a new hope for both of them. They would rebuild their relationship from scratch, step by step, but at least now, they were no longer strangers. The days after Liam decided to open his heart to Michael were not easy, but they were not meaningless either. These were the days when both of them, a newly discovered father and a child who had never known love, began to rebuild their relationship from scratch. It wasn't a quick journey, nor a miraculous encounter that would change everything immediately, but a long and difficult process, slow steps, yet full of hope. Michael never thought things would be simple right away. He understood that Liam couldn't instantly see him as a father. Liam had lived too long in loneliness, and feelings of love were not easy to accept, especially when the wounds in his heart were still fresh. Every time Michael tried to reach out to Liam, he could feel the coldness and avoidance. But this did not discourage him. He knew that building trust couldn't be rushed, and the boy needed time. Michael began patiently becoming part of Liam's daily life. Every morning, he didn't rush to meet Liam immediately. Instead, he went to the places Liam frequented. He didn't say anything, just silently stood at a distance, watching him like an observer, ready whenever Liam needed him. Occasionally, he would leave small gifts that Liam could not refuse, like warm bread or an old coat. Each gift wasn't just material. It was a symbol of his care. Although Liam didn't easily open up, he began to sense Michael's presence. The strange feeling slowly faded when he realized that this man wasn't here to ask for anything, didn't demand anything from him. He was just silently there, like a shadow, but always ready to help when needed. In the days that followed, whenever Liam felt tired or stuck, he would unexpectedly receive help from Michael, not knowing where it came from. It wasn't grand gestures, but gentle acts of care, a timely presence that he couldn't ignore. Day by day, Michael continued with his patience. He began inviting Liam to participate in simple activities he thought might help him integrate into his world. A simple breakfast at a cafe, weekend walks in the park, quiet evenings spent talking about small things in life. These meetings, although not filled with words, gradually made their relationship feel more natural and comfortable. Liam felt that this man wasn't forcing him, but simply wanted to share a little space with him. He began to feel a change in his relationship with Michael, though it was slow and full of hesitation. He didn't express it, but a part of him couldn't deny that he no longer felt entirely alone like before. One evening, when Michael invited Liam to dinner at a small restaurant, Liam hesitated for a long time before agreeing. He was so used to eating alone, to the solitary moments in silence where he didn't have to worry about the gaze of others. But something had changed today. He entered the restaurant, saw Michael sitting at the familiar corner table, the soft light of the lamp casting a warm glow on his face, making him seem closer and friendlier than ever before. When he sat down, Michael didn't rush to talk about serious matters. He just asked about the simple things in Liam's life, as if he were learning about Liam's likes, the habits he kept. There were no grand promises, no long stories about the past, just gentle questions and short, sincere answers. And through each question, Liam gradually felt he was no longer alone in this relationship. One evening, As they returned home after dinner, Michael said something he had been hiding for a long time. "I know things can't change immediately, but I'll be here, not leaving anymore." Liam didn't respond right away, but those words made him feel a strange warmth spread through his heart. He didn't need to say anything, but deep in his heart, he realized that Michael was no longer a stranger. He was the father Liam had always been looking for, a man who was not perfect but truly wanted to be there for him. Day after day, Michael was still there, not forcing, not demanding, just simply being a friend, sharing small moments of life with him. Liam, though still hesitant at times, began to see the importance of this relationship. Each morning when he woke up, he no longer felt lost, no longer felt lonely as before. Michael wasn't just a father. He was also a friend, a companion, and perhaps a part of Liam had found where he belonged. Finally, Liam was able to move past the doubts, accepting Michael not because he was his father, but because of his sincerity. He no longer lived in the conflict between the past and the present, but slowly began to build a new life with this man. Their relationship wasn't a fairy tale, but it was real, deep, and full of hope. Both Michael and Liam knew that, despite the many challenges ahead, they would face them together. This relationship, though imperfect, was a firm step forward. A family, though starting late, would never be torn apart. As the months passed, Michael and Liam began to build a new relationship together. Not as strangers anymore, but as two people gradually learning to understand and love each other. Michael, despite his past failures, had no regrets about the steps he took to start over. He wasn't seeking perfection. He simply wanted to create a space where Liam could feel safe and could trust him as a real father. Liam, after struggling with feelings of abandonment and loneliness for so long, began to notice changes within himself. He no longer had to live in constant doubt. Gradually, the warmth from Michael's actions began to seep into him, little by little. The feeling that he could actually belong to a new family was slowly becoming a reality. Although he couldn't completely forget the pain of the past, Liam no longer harbored as much anger in his heart. He began to see love in Michael's eyes, something he had never dared to dream of before. Michael was not just a father. He was also a companion, a person who taught Liam more than he could have imagined. He joined Liam on weekend outings, movie nights on the couch, and simple coffee mornings that Liam had never experienced for such a long time. Every morning, Michael would take Liam to school, not only to care for him, but also to be with him, to share the little stories of life. Gradually, not only Michael, but also those around Liam began to notice the change in him. He was no longer as withdrawn or evasive as he had been before. He began participating in social activities, striking up conversations with new friends, opening up more to those around him. This wasn't easy for him, but the change within him was partly thanks to the care and attention that Michael had given him. With all his patience and love, Michael helped Liam realize that he deserved a better life, a life with parents, with a family. One weekend morning, when Liam was getting ready to accompany Michael to a family gathering of his friends, he realized something. Even though this was the first time he had ever attended such an event, he didn't feel strange or scared. Instead, he felt confidence and safety that he had never experienced in all the years before. His mother, Maria, had always taught him to live with resilience and self-respect, and now he realized that his strength didn't just come from what she had taught him, but also from the love that Michael had given him. They arrived at a large house with a spacious garden, where everyone had gathered, laughing and talking happily. Liam saw unfamiliar faces, but in Michael's gaze, he didn't feel isolated. Instead, he felt like he was part of a new family. Michael introduced Liam to his friends, but instead of feeling like an outsider, Liam felt like a member of this family. Everyone welcomed him warmly, and gradually, he didn't feel the strangeness or distance in those conversations. He began to participate, began to laugh, and felt the warmth in the atmosphere. That was the first time he felt truly welcomed as part of a real family. That evening, as they returned home, Michael and Liam sat together, sharing cheerful stories about the gathering. Liam no longer felt awkward or hesitant. He knew that, even though Maria wasn't by his side, what he needed wasn't an idealized image of a family, but sincerity and true love. Michael had become the father he had always hoped for, and he was now able to admit that in his heart. In the months that followed, Michael and Liam continued to build a new family, not based on material things or wealth, but on understanding, patience, and unconditional love. Together, they overcame challenges and difficult moments, but they also found simple joys in everyday life. Coffee mornings, afternoon walks, quiet evenings together, all contributed to forming a strong family, even if it was built from imperfect pieces. Michael was no longer the father who only appeared in Liam's dreams, but an irreplaceable part of his life. Liam no longer had to fight alone, no longer had to endure loneliness and silence. He had Michael, and Michael had Liam. They were not perfect people, but they were a family, and that was the most important thing. And in that moment, Liam realized that no matter how difficult the past had been, no matter how love had been interrupted, when two people choose each other, love each other, and care for each other, that is a family. The story of Liam and Michael is not just a simple tale about the relationship between a father and son. It is a profound lesson about forgiveness, patience, and the power of love in healing deep wounds. The relationship between Liam and Michael is a long, challenging journey, but it is also filled with hope and growth. At the beginning of the story, Liam is an orphan, facing loneliness and sorrow, lacking the care of a father he has never known. His mother, Maria, is the only one who cared for him, but he had to live in material and emotional deprivation. Liam's journey was the life of a child learning to survive in a harsh world, where trust in others became increasingly fragile. However, it was from these wounds that Liam developed an inner strength, helping him become resilient and never give up. But everything began to change when Michael appeared. Their relationship was not an immediate transformation, but a long, arduous process. Michael was not a perfect father, and Liam was not an easy child to accept love from a stranger. However, the small actions, the quiet care from Michael, gradually built a new relationship between them. Michael did not seek to replace Maria. He only wanted to make up for past mistakes. And this created an opportunity for Liam to try opening his heart and accepting the love he had never dared to hope for. The most important lesson this story offers is the power of forgiveness. Liam could not immediately forgive Michael for his past mistakes, but over time, as he saw the sincerity in Michael's actions, his heart began to change. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting everything that happened. It is a process of freeing the mind so that one is not bound by old wounds. This story shows that forgiving others and even oneself is an important step in moving forward and rebuilding broken relationships. Michael, despite being an imperfect father, learned an important lesson about patience and perseverance. He understood that a father-child relationship could not be built overnight. It was a long process that required time and dedication. What mattered was sincerity and never giving up. Michael accepted that he couldn't change the past, but he could change the present and the future. He did not allow himself to be trapped in the mistakes of the past, but instead chose to build a new family, even if it started late. Through this story, we see that love does not always come in the way we expect. Sometimes it comes from unexpected situations, from relationships we never thought would happen. However, True love is when we are willing to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, to understand and accept them, and to continuously work on building a healthy relationship. Michael was not only a father, but also a friend and a companion. Liam, despite losing his mother, eventually realized that he did not have to live alone. The change in Liam is a testament to the power of patience and genuine care. This story also reflects a deep lesson about change in each person. Liam was not a perfect child, and neither was Michael. They both had their pasts, their unhealed wounds, but it was their sincerity that helped them overcome obstacles and come closer to one another. Their relationship was not a miracle, but the result of continuous effort, understanding, and unconditional love. It teaches us that sometimes, in order to love someone, we need patience, forgiveness, and most importantly, we need to learn how to rebuild from the ground up, no matter how painful the past may be. Finally, the story of Liam and Michael is not only about the reunion of a broken family, but it is also a story about growth. Liam learned that love is not always perfect, but when we open our hearts, when we dare to face our wounds, we can find joy and peace in new relationships. Michael learned that being a father is not just about having a child, but about nurturing and protecting them, never giving up when they need you the most. And ultimately, this story reminds us that family is not just defined by blood, but by those who are willing to share, care for, and love us, no matter our circumstances. Every family, even if imperfect, can be a home if we know how to love and care for each other.